welcome again to Talking Pittsburgh. I'm Bob Bruce with Dr. Jan Ferri-Reed. Ferri-Reed, did I get that correctly?
You did.
This is an incredible, she's local, she's from Pittsburgh, and she's got Keeping Up with the Millennials.
That is
right. Is that correct? First of all, we need to explain to people, it basically says on the front why companies are losing billions in turnover to this generation. Who are the millennials? I know X generation, I know I'm a baby boomer, and then we have the greatest generation, but who the heck are the millennials?
Well, they're the individuals born between 1980 and 1999. So about
troublemakers.
I'm not sure about that, but ages 29 and under.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what is the problem with the millennials? It says keeping the millennials. Is there a major problem for businesses as far as keeping these people employed or employing them in the first place? Or do they just have a whole different view of way life is lived than perhaps my generation?
All of the above.
Oh, really?
One of the things that happens is they really are shaking up the workplace, for one thing. They work differently, they think differently. Remember, they're the children of boomers who they were told they can achieve anything. Mm-hmm. And so they come to the workplace expecting that things are fast-paced, expecting to have high technology because that's what they're used to, that's what they've grown up with.
Yeah, this is a generation that had technology from the crib on up.
Absolutely, yeah. They don't know what life is like without a computer or without now their iPhone.
To go in the backyard and play with sticks and stones. They don't do that.
Didn't happen. No, didn't happen. And so when they get to the workplace, they are looking for those same kinds of tools. They're looking for opportunities sooner rather than waiting for that promotion. And they're shaking it up because in many cases they're leaving 12 to 18 months after hire, which causes a huge drain when you talk about 50 to 150% of the salary to replace them.
Now, their expectations, I remember reading an article similar to this, and I totally like this, it said that those higher expectations, they come in, they want more, but they're not as driven as perhaps my generation. You know, my generation has worked 50 hours, worked 50 hours, worked 50 hours. But this generation says, yeah, I want to work hard, but, you know, I'm going to take time off because I want to do my mountain biking, or I want to do this, I want to do my hobbies, I want to balance my life more.
Right.
Is there a lot of that in that?
Absolutely, because they watch their parents, as you just said, tend towards the workaholism, mm-hmm. and then said, you know, after getting laid off or getting the pink slips at some point in time and dedicating all those years to a corporation, they step back and say, hey, you know, I really want to work to live. I don't really, and work-life balance for them, it's really kind of a blur. I mean, they almost laugh at that term because what they're looking at is kind of a 24/7 workplace. And so they can say, hey, if I need to leave at 3 o'clock, why can't I go to my softball game? And, you know, I'll get that report done at 3 a.m.
Totally opposite the way almost every company in this country operates.
Yes,
unless maybe you're a technology company, mm-hmm. which I'm sure some companies look at, like Google or whatever, and the way they run their business, say, how can you have a campus like that where people have, right. you know, babysitting there and everything else? But this is the wave of the future, you're saying.
I think it is, and there are companies, for instance, Best Buy has done some mm-hmm. really cool things about focusing on results rather than activities. So there are companies looking. It might not be you can decide your own schedule, because that really is ideal and a little pie in the sky, but it certainly can be what kind of flex schedules can you have, what kind of virtual work can you have, what kinds of things can you focus on that the result, when you don't have to be there, the result is more important than how much time you put in.
Will business, which is notoriously slow in adapting in many instances when it comes to employee relations and that sort of thing, will business be able to adapt to that quick enough? Because they're going to have to adapt, won't they? Because this is an entire generation of workers. The generation's not going to change. It's going to have to be business that changes, correct?
Yes. And the thing is, when you look at the millennials, they're probably the biggest birth generation next to the boomers. And certainly retirement and boomers exiting the organizations has somewhat slowed down given the mm-hmm. state of the economy.
Which creates clashing now. Because some of these millennials are saying, hey, get out of here, it's my turn. And a lot of the baby boomers say, hey, no, I got to work.
Yeah. I got to work, and I have to work longer than what I had anticipated. But at some point in time, we're going to have to backfill, especially when we look at key leadership positions in an organization.
Is this the first time? It's the first time two generations have clashed as much as this? Because the way retirement is changing for baby boomers and that so-called post-World War II, okay, I'm going to work to 65, I'm going to quit and play golf every day, and that's totally changing now. And keeping people in the workplace well into their late 60s, 70s, and even beyond.
Sure.
And now you've got, and that takes up a spot that where maybe this younger worker would go.
And that may cause some resentment. It also presents some opportunities because, you know, you don't want that knowledge and that experience to leave the organization. And just like a boomer can educate a younger person coming into the organization, consequently, millennials can also mentor the older generation, especially when it comes to technology and using computers.
And you've got some great sections in the book here, because I was glancing through here. And whether you're a business owner or not, or hiring millennials, just to understand the generation, to learn terminology is so different from my generation. I mean, my father's generation would be totally lost on some of the terminology. I went through it with our producer, and I picked out most of them, but there are 2 or 3 that I'm going, I'm not really sure what that is. Things are moving that fast.
They are moving very, very fast. Even if you take a look at the typical cell phone to the iPhone, who knows what the next generation will be, and that will be in 3 to 5 years. It won't be the 10 or 15 years that boomers had to wait.
I still remember I sent my daughter over one time at a relative's house to use the phone. It had a rotary dial phone, and she just stood and looked at it like, what do you do with this? Why companies are losing billions in turnover to this generation. Keeping Up with the Millennials.com is where you need to go to find out more information and to pick up the book, available most anywhere right now. 1-800-456-5790. Dr. Jan Ferri-Reed, thanks so much for being with us. It's a fascinating book. Pick it up. We'll see you next time on Talking Pittsburgh.